Are spouses predestined by Allah? Like, is there really someone already written for you? Or is it just about making the right halal choice and praying for barakah? It's one of those questions no one wants to ask out loud because the answer feels like it decides everything. If it's written, then why does it feel so delayed? Why have you met the wrong people, the confusing ones, over and over again? Why does it feel like maybe Allah wrote you for solitude, not love? The truth is, a lot of us grew up romanticizing this idea of the one, that one person who fits so perfectly, who makes everything easy, who shows up exactly when you're finally ready. But then reality hits. You're older now, more emotionally scarred, less trusting, more hesitant to open your heart even to someone good, because you're not even sure what good feels like anymore. And in the silence of all that waiting, you start to wonder, what if I missed them? What if I messed up my qada? What if I was too distracted when they came, and now they're gone? But what if I told you that Allah does guide people to the ones written for them? Not with big miracles, not with a dream, not even with a feeling, but with signs. Real, grounded, spiritual signs. And most of us, we miss them because we're too focused on timelines, too worried about loneliness, too obsessed with chemistry, too distracted by what looks good and not what's quietly bringing us closer to Allah. If you're watching this right now, chances are your soul is tired of guessing, tired of false starts, tired of wondering if this person is from Allah or just another test. Then keep watching. Because in this video we're going to walk through 6 subtle signs Allah might be guiding you to the one written for you, not the one you fantasized, not the one you begged for, but the one your soul was actually created to walk this life with, in a way that pleases Him. For the people who are done playing games with their heart and ready to start listening to Allah's guidance instead, let's begin. Sign 1. You're willing to lose them for the sake of Allah. And here's what no one really tells you. Sometimes the person you're praying for is also the person you're being tested with. Because we all think guidance will feel light, certain, maybe even romantic, but real guidance from Allah, it doesn't always come wrapped in peace. Sometimes it comes wrapped in resistance, the kind that forces you to ask, would I still want them if I knew I might lose Allah in the process? And if that question hits you in the gut, even just once, that's the sign. Not because you're weak, but because somewhere deep inside you, your fitrah already knows, no relationship is worth trading your akhirah for. The Prophet said, clearly, whoever gives up something for the sake of Allah, He will replace it with something better. And that isn't just a cute hadith to print on your wall. It's something you feel when you're being pulled away from someone you thought was the one. Because the conversation started getting flirtier, or the boundaries started fading, or suddenly the mention of marriage became a tool to justify sin. It's easy to stay when the connection is strong. It's a different kind of guidance when you're willing to walk away, not because the love disappeared, but because your fear of losing Allah finally became stronger than your fear of losing them. And here's where it gets even more real. Sometimes the person was never haram. They were good, practicing, seemed right in all the ways you asked for, but something felt off, a delay, a spiritual heaviness, maybe even a sudden war between you and your dua. And your nafs screamed, what if you never find someone like this again? But your ruh, your soul, whispered something else. Even if it hurts now, I'd rather lose a person than lose the one who writes all people into my life. That's not heartbreak, that's growth. And if you've ever been in that moment, choosing silence over sweet talk, choosing distance over late night replies, choosing Allah even when your chest was burning with longing, then whether you realized it or not, you were being guided. Because Allah doesn't just guide us to the right people, He guides us away from the wrong ones too. Even if your heart didn't want to let go, even if your nafs still doesn't understand. Sometimes, the strongest sign you're being guided to the one written for you is that you are finally strong enough to walk away from the one who wasn't. Sign 2. It doesn't start with chemistry. It starts with character. Let's be honest. Most of us didn't grow up praying for a spouse with good adab. We prayed for someone who got us, who made our heart race a little, who just felt different. Because deep down, we weren't taught to look for compatibility with our soul. We were taught to chase familiarity with our wounds. And that's why so many of us mistook chemistry for a sign from Allah. It felt like fate, but really it was just unhealed parts of us, recognizing something they'd already survived. You felt drawn to them, not because they were right, but because the chaos was something your nervous system already knew how to dance with. But then something shifted. You started healing. You stopped begging to be chosen. You stopped confusing butterflies with barakah. And suddenly, those fireworks didn't feel spiritual anymore. They just felt loud. Because when Allah starts guiding you to the person written for you, He doesn't just soften your heart toward them. He hardens your heart against everything that used to break you. You stop craving mystery. You start craving clarity. You stop falling for charm. You start watching character. The Prophet ﷺ didn't say, marry someone who gives you butterflies. He said, if someone whose religion and character pleases you comes to you, marry them. Why? Because butterflies disappear. Character does. Because what you really need on the worst day of your marriage isn't someone who knows your favorite song. It's someone who still fears Allah, even when they're mad at you. It's not about how they make you feel in the honeymoon stage. It's about how they behave when they don't get their way. So if you're finally in a place where you'd rather have peace than potential, you'd rather be alone than breadcrumbed, you'd rather wait for honesty than rush into pain, then that's a sign you're being guided. Because Allah doesn't just send you the right person, He prepares you to receive them by unlearning what false love looked like. And maybe the reason it doesn't feel exciting right away is because it's not supposed to. Maybe it's supposed to feel stable, quiet, safe, almost boring at first. But that boring is actually your nervous system not being in fight or flight. That boring is what barakah sounds like. Sign 3. They don't make you rush what Allah told you to wait for. You ever get that pit in your stomach right after texting back too fast, or agreeing to something that deep down you weren't ready for? It's wild how many people are living their halal love stories at harams. They meet someone, things click, chemistry feels crazy, and suddenly it's like their taqwa gets shoved into the back seat because feelings are driving now. They skip the hard questions. They ignore the red flags. They move faster than Allah ever asked them to. And then when things fall apart, they don't just blame the other person. They blame Islam for making things feel impossible. But here's the real truth no one wants to say out loud. Most relationships don't crash because of sin. They crash because when you rush something sacred, even if your niyyah was good, you end up worshipping the feeling instead of the one who gave it. And that's how the nafs tricks you. You think rushing it is proof of love, but it's actually proof of fear. Fear that if you wait too long, you'll lose them. Fear that if you slow down, they'll disappear. But someone who's truly meant for you, they don't pressure your timeline. They protect it. They don't treat Allah's commands like inconveniences. They treat them like boundaries worth honoring, even if it means holding back their own desire. The Prophet ﷺ said, haste is from shaitan, and calmness is from Ar-Rahman. That applies even when you're excited, even when they seem perfect, even when everything inside you is saying, just go for it. Because if you have to rush it, compromise your deen and silence your gut to keep them, they were never barakah to begin with. Real love doesn't need to sprint. It knows Allah's timeline is already in motion. So ask yourself, if they said, let's slow down for Allah, would you feel relief or resentment? Because the right one won't rush the connection. They'll rush to protect your peace. Sign 4. They bring you closer to who you actually are, not who you pretend to be. Let's be real. Most people don't fall in love with each other. They fall in love with the version they're trying to sell. You dress different. You talk cleaner. You laugh at things you don't even find funny. You shapeshift into someone they'll like. And you hope they never see past it, because deep down you're afraid if they met the real you, the awkwardness, the spiritual inconsistency, the unresolved stuff you're still working through, they'd walk. So you keep performing, and every romantic moment starts to feel like a quiet audition. But you want to know what guidance looks like. It's when Allah brings someone into your life, and suddenly, you don't feel the need to perform. You feel safe being honest, not perfect. Just, you can admit you're struggling, that you don't have it all together, that you're still figuring things out spiritually, and they don't make you feel smaller for it. They meet you there with mercy. You don't feel like a project. You feel like a person, and they don't just hype up the polished parts of you. They hold space for the parts that are still under construction. The Prophet ﷺ said, "The best of you are those who are best to their families." Why? Because at home, the mask is gone. There's no filter, no performance, no public image. Just you, tired, vulnerable, unedited. And if someone only likes you when you're polished but disappears when you're messy, that's not love, that's branding. But the person Allah sends for you, they won't fall in love with the edited version of your faith. They'll fall in love with the way you fight for it, and when you're around them, something strange happens. You stop pretending to be religious. You start wanting to be, not out of pressure, but out of peace. Because real love doesn't make you perform Islam, it makes you return to it. Sign 5. It matches a dua you forgot you even made. It's one of the strangest feelings. That moment when someone enters your life and something about it feels weirdly familiar. Not because you know them, but because something in your soul goes, "This is what I asked for." And not in the perfect person checklist way. Not the tall, good akhlaq, stable job kind of dua, but the kind of dua you made during a breakdown, when your voice was cracking. When you didn't have fancy Islamic phrases, when your dua sounded more like, "Your Allah, I'm tired. Please just send me someone I don't have to heal from." You didn't write it down. You probably didn't even say Ameen. You just survived it and kept going. But Allah didn't forget, and sometimes, the person Allah sends later feels like an answer to that exact moment. They won't be flawless. They might not tick every box, but their presence quiets something in you. Like finally, I don't have to explain every wound I carry. Like finally, I'm not overthinking my worth every 5 seconds. Like finally, this doesn't feel like I'm being tolerated. And that's the sign, because when something is from Allah, it doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes, it arrives with peace, with familiarity you can't logically explain, with the realization that this connection was written when you were broken, not when you were perfect. But here's the real question. Will you recognize it when it comes? Because sometimes, by the time Allah gives you what you asked for, you're so used to being disappointed. You almost reject the blessing. You overanalyze it. You doubt it. You tell yourself it's probably too good to be true. But pause for a second. What if it's not too good to be true? What if it's just finally good enough to be real? And what if Allah is testing you now, not with delays, but with delivery? So here's how you know if this connection feels strangely familiar, if it matches the emotional needs you cried over but couldn't articulate, if it quiets your anxiety instead of feeding it, if it mirrors a dua you forgot you even made. That might not be coincidence, that might be mercy, catching up to a version of you that almost gave up. And that feeling, that realization, that's not romance, that's qadar. Sign 6. Istikhara doesn't just bring signs, it brings clarity. Let's be honest, most of us only make istikhara when we're already leaning toward a yes, and we just want Allah to co-sign it. We're not really asking, is this good for me? We're asking, please make it work. And then we wait for a dream, a sign, a feeling, anything. We start analyzing how fast they text back, whether they remembered our favorite snack, whether their mom smiled more than usual, as if some kind of spiritual dating algorithm. But what if we've misunderstood how it works? Istikhar was never about dreams or butterflies. It's not magic, it's not a shortcut, it's a surrender. It's you handing over the steering wheel and saying, Ya Allah, sir, where this, if this is good for me, make it easy. If it's not, block it, even if I beg for it. But here's where it gets real. Most of us don't actually want clarity. We want confirmation, because deep down, we know, if Allah really showed us the truth, we might not like it. Maybe they're good, but not good for you. Maybe you're compatible on paper, but they drain your peace. Maybe they're ready for marriage, but not ready for you. Istikhar doesn't just bring sign, it exposes attachments. It clears your emotional fog. It peels back the layers and shows you what your nafs didn't want to admit. And the truth is, you probably won't get some mystical dreams. You'll just feel something shift. You'll stop fantasizing about the future. You'll stop obsessing over their messages. You'll stop bending your boundaries to keep them around. You'll just start seeing them clearly. And maybe for the first time, you'll see yourself clearly too. That's the clarity it brings. It doesn't always give you who you want, but it gives you you back. The version of you that trusts Allah more than her own timeline. The version of you that lets go even when it hurts. The version of you that finally knows silence isn't rejection, it's protection. So if you've been feeling confused after Istikhar, maybe the answer already came. Maybe your peace disappearing was the sign. Maybe Allah isn't punishing you. He's positioning you for better, but you're still trying to decode it like a horoscope. Don't look for magic, look for clarity. Don't chase signs, chase alignment. Because the one written for you won't require you to keep begging Allah to make it make sense. It will make sense because Allah will make it make sense. And that's the difference between someone you're obsessed with and someone Allah is actually guiding you toward. Let's be clear about something. This video wasn't meant to promise you that your person is just around the corner. It's not a checklist to unlock love. It's not a romanticized version of Qadar. It's about recognizing what divine guidance actually looks like in real life, and how Allah often speaks to you not through visions or miracles, but through slow clarity, small moments, and emotional shifts you almost ignore. And maybe now you're realizing something. You felt some of these signs, but you thought they were nothing. You thought losing interest in someone meant you were just confused. You thought walking away was fear of commitment. You thought that quiet peace around someone was just boring. But what if that was the guidance? What if Allah has been guiding you this whole time? You just didn't know how to interpret it. And here's another truth no one tells you. Sometimes Allah guides you to someone, and sometimes He guides you away. Gently, painfully, but unmistakably. The heartbreak, the delay, the relationship that didn't work. It wasn't rejection, it was protection, it was redirection, it was mercy disguised as silence. Because love, in Islam, isn't about dopamine and butterflies. It's about who brings you back to your fitrah, who slows your heart, not accelerates your anxiety, who feels like a reminder of Allah, not a replacement for Him. So if you're watching this thinking, what if I missed the one Allah wrote for me? Breathe. You didn't miss anything. Because what's written for you will always find you, as long as you're walking toward Him. And if this video brought some clarity to your heart, then maybe comment a short dua, not for the algorithm, not for attention, just something simple, something sincere like, Ya Allah, don't let me chase what you're protecting me from. Because sometimes that dua is the beginning of a better destiny. And if you felt seen in this video, hit like, subscribe for more real reminders like this, and maybe send it to someone who's quietly questioning everything they thought love was supposed to feel like. Until next time, we're about to care too.